Today we're just going to do a build off some sort of random word generator.
Yeah, we're going to pick a random word.
Pick a random word.
And then you're going to build something based on
it.
Yeah. And then I'll build something off of it as well.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we're going to choose the word. You see we limited it to nouns. As an example, we've got bottle there. Press the button.
Apparel.
Apparel. Okay, that's like clothing and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we could work with that.
Tell you what we'll do. We'll just make a classic shaker rack.
Okay, cool.
Simple bit of timber and a bit of turning for the pegs.
So what kind of thing are you looking for?
I'm just looking for a piece of oak, about an inch thick, 3/4 of an inch thick, sort of like that dimension, 2 foot by. That's what I'm looking for. Something like that, maybe a bit longer.
So what wood is it?
Oak.
Okay, cool. How do you decide which one you want to use?
Well, you get out just various pieces, look at them, decide what dimensions sort of lead the way and the bits you use, and obviously the colour. Then it's just down to character and which piece of wood you like the look of. So
like grain and...
Yeah, grain and character, and some things require it looking like pristine and uniform. Other things you'd want a bit more character in it. I quite like this knot here, so I'd like to keep that possibly. But then again, with pegs sticking in it, sometimes it looks better if it's a bit more uniform. So I may cut that bit out.
It's better than my wood selection technique, which is just whatever I have that's the right size.
Yeah. Is that big enough?
Cool. So I don't really know shaker. I've heard the term used quite a bit, but it's not really my kind of style. So
yeah, it's just like traditional style of furniture of the shaker period. And that's what we'll basically do is classic flat back rack with shaker pegs, which are kind of traditionally shaped like this. Just your classic rack.
nice.
That's a shaker peg.
Okay, cool. Measuring up is always where I go wrong. However precisely I seem to do it,
Well, this is just roughing
I
out.
get it wrong.
Roughing it out for the time being. Just going to rip that on the bandsaw, save us over machining loads of bits of timber that are making extra wood chippings that we don't need. That surface plane one side, so although it looks fairly flat, you'll find there's a bit of wind or a few undulations in there. So you get one side nice and flat, then you get a parallel side flat at 90 degrees against the fence. Then run it to the thicknesser, so you've got a uniform thickness all the way down the piece of timber. Probably it's like 3/4 of an inch, 19mm or something. Then rip the final width and length on the table saw. You've got a nice square true piece of timber then.
So is that an aesthetic thing, or is it quite important to the actual process?
Well, something like this, you could probably just use it as is. I mean, it's not that critical, but it just gives a nice finished product, especially if you're doing a multiple component piece of furniture or something. Then everything has to be pretty precise, otherwise, you know, tiny mill here, tiny mill there, things don't line up. And
right, yeah.
gluing a tabletop up, you've got loads of random sized pieces of timber, it's not going to work.
I guess the difference between a professional looking piece of work and an amateur?
Well, yeah, it's just how rustic it's going to look, really.
Okay. Rustic is a word I might bust out a few times on this channel. Making wonky stuff and just going, that's rustic. So this is a jointer or planer? I always forget what the difference is between the two.
Well, a jointer is pretty much the same as a surface planer.
Right.
It's just, I think Americans tend to call them jointers.
Right, okay.
Kind of catch on a bit over.
See, I watch too many Americans to like.
Yeah. But, and the bit underneath is the thicknesser.
Oh, so it's like 2-in-1.
Yeah, it's a 2-in-1. You can get them like separate standalone machines, but a lot of people in a lot of workshops just use an all-in-one machine that does both. They take a bit more setting up than 2 standalone pieces where you just have to adjust the height or the depth of plane and cut. So you have to flip the beds over, but it takes obviously less space in the workshop.
Right, yeah.
What I tend to do is a quick guide just to make sure you've trued a piece of timber up properly. You just roughly put a pencil mark all the way across, like that. And when all the pencil marks have gone, you've planed it true then. You can see all the pencil marks going. We knew this timber was quite true anyway, so it didn't need much flattening off. A little mark on that to show that we know you've planed that true.
You're just checking the squareness of the bench, yeah?
Checking the squareness of the bench, yeah.
So now you're going to...
Yeah, put the flat side we've just planed up against the fence to create a perfect 90-degree edge on it. So you've got a perfect 90-degree corner. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay, I just got twatted with a piece of wood. What the fuck happened there? Ouch.
That's not moved for like 18 months.
That really caught me on the corner of the head as well.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good. Okay, you were saying anyway.
We got interrupted.
We got rudely interrupted.
Yeah. That's 90-degree corner now, so just put a few marks there to know that that's your 90-degree corner working off. So when you pick up your piece of timber again, you think, oh, which side have I done?
Yeah.
So you've got some little ID marks there so you know where you're working. Right, now we'll flip this over. That then is the thickness. And you raise and lower the bed. You got your cutter head up there, which does your planing and your thickness in. So you just raise your bed up and down, depending on how thick you want your timber. I'll just check how thick the piece of timber is we're working with. Maybe 1.4. Check for the high spot. Right, 1.4. So get it down to about 22mm, like 7/8 of an inch. Yeah, a mil at a time. Different timbers you can take off different amounts at a time, but this is a slightly wavy bit of oak, so don't take off too much at a time, otherwise you get tear out. Find out which way the grain's running.
How do you know that?
You just look down the side and you can see they've got a wavy bit in the middle. Generally the majority of it's coming this way, so we'll feed it through that way, minimise tear out. And you can see on there. So this is why we feed it in a certain direction, because this is quite a wavy bit of oak. you end up with getting tear outs where the grain is pointing up towards the cutting blade. So we've got a little bit there where the grain's wavy. And the last few passes will take off like a tiny bit at a time, and it eliminates that so much. So the more you take off, the deeper it will tear out into your piece of timber. That could be the backside anyway. Do 22.6. My time's had a bit of sand in. Do that right. Next, just gonna rip it to width and length on the table saw. So we know we've got that side now is parallel to that one. I'll just run it over the planer to tidy that edge up. I'll just square the edges up.
Is there any specific reason you're spacing them like that, or just eyeballing it?
No, yeah, just kind of eyeballing how many pegs you get out this piece of timber. It's always nice to make them as long as possible because store as much stuff on as you can.
Cool. So is that
That's the backboard now.
backboard done?
Yeah, we'll do a bit of profiling on the edges. I'll just do that with a chisel or a plane.
It'll show you how crazy long it takes just to do one straight piece of wood, though, isn't
That's it. And if you're doing a piece of furniture and it's got like 40 different components and you've got to machine them all up, you can spend like 2 days just machining the timber.
Yeah.
I tend to buy most of the stuff in what's called rough sawn. So it's just literally like sawn from the mill on a big like bandsaw blade. See, so it's rough sawn from the mill. You can buy what they call PAR, planed all round, where they do some extra machine up for you, but you pay a premium for that. So if you're buying loads of timber, it's best, and you've got machining to do, it's just best to buy it rough sawn. Even then, you still got to machine this up to thickness. So machining out a bit of rough sawing is no extra work really. I'm just going to cheat so I don't have to machine up too much more timber. Is just rip this down a bit because it's a bit wide, not quite in proportion. And I can use that bit to turn the pegs.
You have to include a bit of extra length.
For parting off, and so mounting in the lathe between centres, you just add a little bit extra. I'm going to do these just in pairs of 2, so I'll do 3 pairs of 2. The longer, thinner piece of timber you turn in the lathe, you tend to get what they call whip in the middle. It's pinched between the 2 end points where it's turning, the drive centre and the tail centre, and in the middle, what happens with the thin piece, where it flexes, it tends to what they call whip. So it turns in a wider circle.
So it becomes a bit like a skipping rope, but not.
Yeah, a little bit like a skipping rope. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you want to turn like smaller, shorter pieces.
Smaller, short pieces. You don't get you get minimal whip. do is just use a centre finder. You could just use a straight edge and go between the centres, but this automatically does it for you.
Using a mini lathe.
Yeah, use the little lathe.
So anyone doesn't know, obviously no one's going to know because they've never been here. And he has a big lathe, which I'm sure we'll see getting used at some point.
This one's got another bed that extends it out so you can turn like long stuff. It's like twice as long.
So why this one over that one?
This one's already got the drive centres in it, and it turns at a higher speed than that one. On something small and narrow, the higher the speed, the quicker you can turn and the smoother you can finish.
So we've got the wood chucked up. Chucked up? Is that the right term?
Not really.
Oh well.
Just mounted in the lathe,
right, okay.
Between the drive centre and the tail centre.
Right.
In the headstock and the tailstock. Yeah. It's driven by a motor and belts here which spins it round. This is tool rest. Your tool sits on there.
And the different tools give you different shapes, or?
Kind of, yeah, or different processes through the actual turning process. Like this is a roughing gauge that's used to knock off the rough edges to turn it to round, so it's not used for much else really.
It's just
like a heavier duty gauge. It's just for truing up the timber.
Okay.
Parting tools for square channels and little reliefs. And you've got spindle gouges for like curved details.
So are you just measuring up one you've already got?
Yeah, that's about roughly the right size. So
if you didn't already have one, would you just eyeball it and then do the rest off of that one? Or?
You can eyeball it. The thing with turning, you can make things quite different, especially if they're like shape. If you're making a chair leg that's got like beads and coves and stuff on, as long as you get the proportions right, the dimensions from that point to that point, and that's the right diameter, that's the right diameter. The bit in the middle can actually be quite different and they can look the same.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you can try and make them look the same, and if you get some of the important dimensions wrong, they look odd, weirdly. So as long as you get the proportions right, the actual detail of the middle bit and the shape of it can be quite different, and they all look very similar. So.
Oh, okay. Cool.
You might think that looks quite round now, but when you stop it, you realise it's not. It's still fairly square. You just knock the edges off.
Yeah. So the first thing you're trying to do is just like get it
to round. Yeah, that's your starting point then. For your dimensions. Far off now, a couple of flat spots.
So you're just checking the dimensions and...
Yeah, I'm just checking those. I can use that now to test it all the way across.
What's that called?
These are dividers.
Right, okay.
Once that's turned around now.
So that's almost like your starting point.
Yeah, it's your starting point for your pegs. Get it to round.
Alright. So next you mark in...
Yeah, you're marking the detail points.
So it's pretty much cut a bit, check, cut a bit,
Yeah.
check.
And sometimes sort of eyeball it roughly where it is, so you know you're getting pretty close, and just check the final. Especially that way you've got to drill a hole for it to go through the backboard. You want it to be fairly accurate and snug. Tip for sand, if you're sanding a lot curved surface like that, so you don't want to flat spot it, just put it on your leg. And follow the curve of the. Without putting a flat spot on. Something soft.
So is anything soft?
Anything soft. Your leg's usually quite handy.
Yeah.
Because you've always got it with you.
Cool. All the pegs done then, so next drill holes for them?
Drill holes for them, yeah. Going to give this a little quick sand first. When you work with oak, I usually wear gloves because the tannins in the oak react with the moisture in your fingers, and look, your fingers start turning black. And that then the fingerprints can show up on your work as well, so
Wear
best,
gloves.
yeah, it's best really if you wear gloves.
So now you're just going to chamfer off the edges.
Yeah, just take off the edges, then I'll soften the edges up just by hand with a bit of a sandpaper or a plane. Of course, you could have done that all by hand if you like.
Or with a plane or...
Yeah, just plain. Or even just a bit of sandpaper on a block. Just nipping the very corners off, the arises, as they're called.
On the back?
Well, yeah, on all the remaining corners, just to soften it a little bit. One, because they're actually quite sharp, and two, just because it just gives it a more finished look.
So it's going to help with drilling?
Yeah, it'll help getting the centre point of the forcing a bit to just line up in there and bore a hole in a straight line.
So how are you drilling the holes?
Well, I'll do them on the drill press.
Okay. So do you want the holes to be snug or...?
Yeah, they're going to be quite tight. These are like fractionally over, so I might, you notice I've like chamfered the edges very slightly on the ones I've turned, just to make it easier to get in the hole.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just a tiny bit, just to start it off in the hole, but I'm going to glue them anyway, so either way they'll be alright, I reckon.
Why you're kind of going in and then backing off again?
Yeah, because the channels in the forcing bits get clogged up with shavings. So if you force it, it starts to smoke and get a bit too hot. So if you just back it up, they'll just fly out.
So you just put in...
Just 2 holes for mounting up on the wall.
Cool. So does the drill press mean you get the holes a lot straight?
Yeah, it's easy. You get them a lot straighter and squarer. I'm going to glue in the pegs now.
Is that just like keying them up?
Yeah, just get a pair of pliers and just put some grooves around the edge. A bit like when you get ridged dowels, there's somewhere for the glue to go. So although they're tight, be surprised when things start drying out, the timber starts Got it in your house above a radiator or something. Without the glue, it will start falling out.
You just normal wood glue or anything special?
Yeah, just normal, nothing special, just normal wood glue will do.
Any particular amount or just
No.
a little bit?
Just a little. A couple of pea-sized shaped bits. We're going to spread it all around the side of the hole. You don't want to put too much in because you won't be able to get your pegs all the way in.
So how long does it typically take this kind of glue to dry?
Fully dry, it'd be a good few hours, but it grips quite quick, this stuff. Goes off. It's very tacky and you won't be able to move it in about 20 minutes or something. Could use polyurethane type glues for sticking quicker, but obviously they tend to fizz up and you might end up with some bits you have to clean up then. Don't stick your glove under that. And shake a cake rack.
Beautiful. All done then?
All done. Well, barring a coat of oil.
Yeah. So you just whack a coat of oil on that and then...
Yeah, coat of oil. A couple of coats of oil, ideally. The colour will just change nicely with a coat of oil. Bring out the grain and stuff.
Lovely.
Got a nice brass screws in there up on your wall. Fit the apparel
Apparel.
theme.
Figure out what I'm going to do now. I mean, whoever's watching this will have probably seen it, or I don't know how I'm going to edit it, so people will have to let us know whether they like yours or mine better. I'm assuming yours, to be honest. I haven't even made mine yet, and I'm assuming it's yours.
Depends how long you got to think about it as well. That's what I'm thinking.
Long as I can possibly give myself,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Do yours in about 6 months.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
It's a fucking lockdown!
Okay, so yeah, it's been a little bit more than 6 months. Try more like 2 years, but I had a pandemic, I moved house, but now I feel like I'm in a place where I can actually make my part of the video. If you like what you've seen so far, then please like the video. I have no fixed schedule on when the next video is coming out, but if you do want to see it, click subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get informed when it does come out. So yeah, see you in the next one.